Hello, this is Julie from Love's Beginning with a blog post entitled Deep Cleansing. Ultimately, to truly awaken completely requires the dismantling of very subtle, deeply embedded patterns of perception that were already making up the soul prior to your incarnation in this life. From The Way of Mastery, Part 2, The Way of Transformation, Shanti Christo Foundation. We can experience dips and points of fatigue on the journey home, and they often precede some of our most significant bursts of letting go. Knowing this, you can see these little collapse points as positive signs. They are rest stops as you remember your willingness to let all the layers of dysfunction go, no matter how subtle or deeply ingrained. When you are experiencing one of these pause points, reflect and see how deeply your perception of the whole world has changed. There is still more to be undone, but look how far you have come. You have come so far that you can see even this idea of progress or the trajectory of undoing as yet another illusion, but it is an illusion in the service of healing. Go deeply into this idea of fatigue. Even the idea of fatigue, it's a bumping up against the next layer of attachment to separate identity. This only means that it's the next thing that's going to go. You can feel that it's time for it to go because of the quality of fatigue. It is not a buoyant energy. It is not a loving energy. It is a limiting energy that you chose for the experience of it, and it can go now. So celebrate the fatigue? Yes, definitely, because nothing can harm you, and you don't need to fight against anything. You see, you allow, you release, you welcome the energy of transformation. If you bump up against the energy of a deeper limit, it only means you're getting ready to let it go. This is the spiritual equivalent of, don't you want those blackheads to be gone completely, once and for all? It requires an allowance, a willingness. There are very deep habits of perception that haven't been undone yet, deeply habitual patterns of reactivity that are still there. You still guard them like your precious jewels out of habit, only now you can feel yourself doing so. You can feel yourself guarding the source of personal suffering as if it were some great treasure, so that leads to your willingness to release whatever distortions are left. We as the loving non-physical beings who will always surround you can take what you release. We can take it for you on your behalf. We take it away the instant you're willing to release misperception. We cannot, however, take misperception from you. Because you are always free to align with conflicted will and personal suffering, we wouldn't overpower you and take your decision from you. Each fragment of the whole returns to full awareness of the whole by free choice. This affects your personal interactions too. How deeply do you want personal interactions cleansed? How much love do you want to be able to see in the other person and in yourself? Are you willing to let go of the perceived self-control that is only fear? Are you willing to accept effortlessness? How many limits do you want to release today? Every being is powered by love. Physical beings couldn't be walking around if they did not have the energy of love running through them in some way. So the people with whom you interact, think of those interactions as an exchange. There is some way in which that being allows love to flow freely through them, and there are other ways in which that being blocks the flow of love because he doesn't understand yet. The same is true of you. If you think of yourself as open to benefiting from the ways that being knows it's safe to let the love flow through, and you think of yourself as being very willing to share the ways that you're willing to allow love to flow through, energetically, just by your being together, then the rest of the interaction takes care of itself. It is always an honor and a privilege to spend time in this sort of open and loving exchange with your fellow beings. Think of this deep clearing, this deep cleansing, and acknowledge what you see as no longer useful for you. You recognize that fear, doubt, insecurity, and suspicion are old tools of reinforcing limitation, and you're not playing that game anymore. Your new toolbox is based on appreciation, knowing, love, and inspiration. You can step forward completely supported with your new toolbox. Imagine yourself with this toolbox. What will you create? Take a moment to let several images come to mind. What will you create? Take a moment to hear a description of what you're going to be creating. Use these inner senses as your sure guide as you step beyond limitation. Thanks for joining me.